and welcome to Sanditon Fancast. We are a fan-made podcast about the masterpiece show Sanditon. Oh, God.
Not a great start.
My name is Michelle. I live in the States, although right now I am somewhere in the middle of the Gulf of Panama. You can find me at Musings on Instagram and Twitter.
I'm Rita. I'm unfortunately in England, and I'm at Annoying Rita on Instagram and Twitter. Welcome to our final podcast. Well-ish. We still have a bonus podcast to record with all your fabulous emails. But this is like our last ever main episode. I'm sad. Yes. Hold me. Before we start, we want to thank Galmish123, Jean from Colorado, and Delia from Texas for their very kind reviews. Although, Jean, you don't have to worry about missing us. We'll be back podcasting in just a matter of days, depressingly enough, with our Queen Charlotte mini-series review. No rest for the wicked or the tired.
No.
If any of you want to join us, then please subscribe to Bridgerton Fancast. But before all that, let's head back to Sanditon for our final ever recap.
Okay, the episode begins with Dawn breaking over Sanditon. Everyone is still sitting vigil over Mary. Dr. Fuchs tells them she needs a miracle, so it's a good thing Reverend Hankins and his sister have arrived to offer prayers for her. Cut to Tom pacing around Mary's room. He laments the fact that he didn't listen to Mary's plans for the old town. Charlotte offers to show him around and explain Mary's thoughts, and so he leaves his dying wife to go on a tour that could totally wait.
Yeah, normal behavior.
Tom and Charlotte visit Miss Filkins in the old town. Tom promises that if there is anything she should need for the children, medicine or food, she will have it. Mary's former maid thanks him and asks him to give his wife a simple wooden cross she is wearing. She tells Tom she will pray for Mary.
Over at the church, Hankins is running through a quick wedding rehearsal for everyone's favourite geriatric lovers, Lady Denham and her boo. Lady Denham is incredibly uncomfortable at the thought of a church full of people gawping at her. Rowley suggests they elope, but points out that it didn't work out so hot for her nephew. Edward, who is standing right next to him as a witness, snogs about being reminded of his recent disgrace, and reminds them that once they're married, he will be left without a place to live or a penny to his name. Again, what happened to his estate?
Yeah.
It feels like I'm hallucinating and it never happened. Hankins gives him a judgy side-eye and tells him, "As ye sow, Sir Edward, so shall ye reap," which I believe is the ecclesiastical version of "you fucked around and you found out."
Yup.
Over at Hayrick Park, the entire family has gathered together to worry about Augusta. She will not eat, she will not sleep. You know, your basic teenage girl breakup cliches. Lydia decides she will never fall in love. Smart. And leaves. Xander, who has had not much luck in the game of love recently, asks Samuel what he's supposed to say to his niece. Samuel has literally zero ideas, but does tell his brother about his plans to marry. Xander looks pleased and tells him, quote, "I'm increasingly of the belief that we are not meant to walk this life alone," end quote, and that he thinks Leo and Augusta are in need of a mother. Samuel's confused. He thought he had given up all hope with Charlotte. Xander tells him he's not thinking of her. Dot. Menacing music plays, but don't worry guys, that plotline goes literally nowhere, so chill.
Yeah. Over at Chez Montrose, they are discussing the previous evening's dinner party from hell, and Lady Montrose calls Agnes's manner suspicious. Quick, someone call the cops, because she's being black in public. You know how that goes. Anyway, Harry tells Lydia to count herself lucky Mr. Colborne's parents are dead and are saved from their mother's scrutiny. Lydia smirks and excuses herself to go riding. With whom? Again.
I will have complaints to make about that.
Oh, yes. Back at Mary's bedside, Tom places the cross in Mary's hand. He promises to give up his plans for the hotel if only God would spare her. Well, right on cue, Mary wakes up.
What do you know?
I'm starting to suspect she might have faked this to get her way. But anyway, everyone is overjoyed to see her awake. Georgie leaves to go tell her mother the good news, but before she goes, Charlotte tries to convince her to call off her wedding. All the cool kids are doing it after all. But Georgie tells her she doesn't need love in a marriage. All she needs is her mommy to love her. Yeah, about that, when Georgiana arrives home, she finds no signs of her mother. Worried, she goes out into town to look for her.
Mary might have just nearly died, but that doesn't stop Charlotte from dumping on her all the details about last night vis-a-vis Ralph. She explains that she couldn't make a vow before God when she's in love with someone else. Mary immediately knows she is talking about Mr. Colborne because, unlike her husband, she has eyes, and encourages Charlotte to go tell him. Out on the streets of Sanditon, a royal messenger arrives with a letter for Lady Susan. Dr. Fuchs runs into the Hankins. Beatrice tells him he saved Mary's life, but her brother is offended at the thought that anyone would take credit for the work of the Lord. And I hate to say it, but I'm with the Reverend on this one. Obviously, it was a miracle. I mean, there was a cross, a promise to God, and everything. All Dr. Fuchs did was tell people to pray, so anyway. Sam and Sue meet for tea, and Sam tells Susan he has renounced his vow to avoid love and marriage, clearly working himself up for a proposal. But Susan interrupts with tears in her eyes and begs him to consider their time together merely a moment. She's expected back in London and thinks it's best they return back to their normal lives. Samuel, although clearly crushed, agrees.
Girl, please. Charlotte visits Hayward Park only to discover that Alexander is out riding. Mrs. Wheatley asks if she may pass on a message, but Charlotte demurs that she would rather tell Xander her news in person. Samuel then enters to tell her that Lady Susan is leaving Sanditon, which is news to Charlotte. Back in town, Tom tells Mr. Price he is reneging on their deal as he is now a loving husband who will listen to his wife. Price, menacingly, tells him that Tom will live to regret this. Price then takes his ranty, angry energy over to see his betrothed, who is unimpressed with his attitude. Quote, I hope you're not suggesting we punish a man just because he has the temerity to listen to his wife. That hardly bodes well, end quote. She is seeing the red flags and balks at the idea that they will be leaving Sanditon immediately, now that his business has concluded in town. He tells her to start packing, and she makes an unsure sound. Mary, who just escaped death that morning, is now fully dressed and having tea in Georgiana's drawing room with her and Charlotte. Georgiana is explaining that she has no idea where the woman claiming to be her mother is. She appears to have slipped out while her servants were still asleep. Georgiana thinks that her mother left as soon as she learned that she was going to be married. Once she realized Georgiana's fortune would be untouchable, Mary encourages her to give her mother the benefit of the doubt, but Georgiana refuses. She has no need for her anyway.
Who needs a mother? Charlotte then takes a walk along the beach with her other delusional friend, Lady Susan. Susan explains that the king has changed his mind and requires her company.
Yes.
She feels unable to refuse his request because he's the motherfucking king.
Ugh.
But before she heads back to London, she hopes to see Charlotte settled with Mr. Colborne. Charlotte tells her she's planning on speaking to him at Lady Denham's wedding. That's only tomorrow. What could possibly go wrong?
Oh, who knows?
Cut to Lydia and Georgiana taking their own stroll. Lydia advises her future sister-in-law to keep her distance from her mother or she will soon find her life is not her own. She slyly remarks that she has ways of preserving her autonomy and tells her that she has formed a secret engagement.
Ooh.
But Georgiana is not to tell a soul. Georgiana, thinking the engagement is to Mr. Colborne, immediately tells Charlotte, thereby setting off a chain of nonsense that doesn't make any sense if you spend more than 2 seconds thinking about it. Why would Lydia keep an engagement to the exact man her mother has been advocating for her to marry a secret? Think, Georgiana, this makes no sense. Has everyone on this show been sniffing glue?
I would say yes. Time for the wedding of the century. It was a century in the making. But anyhow, as the entire town arrives to the chapel on Lady Denham's estate, we see the bride look forlornly out the window as the house around her is being packed up behind her. At the chapel on her estate, Tom runs into Mr. Colborne and asks him for a chat about his/Mary's plans for the old town. Charlotte overhears a conversation between Xander and Lydia and Lady Montrose about building a similar chapel on his estate to hold a wedding and immediately bounces to uncomfortable. She approaches Samuel Colborne and tells him to fight for Lady Susan. She deserves so much better than the king. Sam is like, what the fuck? The king? Everyone then takes their seats and waits for the bride to arrive. Xander and Charlotte are, of course, seated next to each other and share an awkward exchange where Charlotte pretends she only dropped by the house to say goodbye. Ugh. Instead of the bride, Edward saunters down the aisle and announces that there will be no wedding after all. Shocked gasps and murmurings echo down the aisle.
Hankin's siblings watch everyone leave the chapel. Beatrice is aghast and asks why Lady Denham would deny herself a last chance of happiness. The Reverend, taking an opportunity to project his feelings about Dr. Fuchs, suggests that perhaps he had certain attitudes that rendered him unworthy. Accidentally hitting the nail on the head there. Beatrice looks at him in anger and asks who would be worthy. Quote, were Jesus himself to pay me a compliment, you would find fault with him. End quote. She flounces off in annoyance. Love her.
I love that line.
Samuel confronts Susan with his new information. He tells her she deserves better than to be treated like a possession, to be picked up or dropped on a whim. Quote, I know I cannot offer you much, but I promise to love only you, to be faithful and constant and dedicate myself to your happiness. End quote. Guys, take notes. This is a proposal.
Yes.
Susan looks almost won over, but apologises and leaves.
Of course she does.
There's still half an hour left, Michelle. Come on.
Oh, God. Rowley then goes on to confront Lady Denham. He is furious and complains about the humiliation of being left at the altar. Lady D is like, that's funny, I can relate. Rowley asks if this is all just some kind of elaborate revenge scheme. She explains that she could not just give up her home, her town, her title, her independence. It was too hard won to give it up now. He asks why she agreed to marry him then, and she kind of shrugs and admits she got caught up in the moment and trying to regain something that was lost to the past. Shrug emoji.
Felt like it. Change my mind.
Yeah. Back at the Parker residence, Charlotte receives a very kind letter from her father, further disproving the theory that he was some kind of boogeyman making her marry Ralph. She tells the Parkers that she plans to stay with Allison and Fraser in Ireland while she looks for a position as a teacher. She then says, quote, I've always dreamed of opening a school for young women, end quote. Like, girl, if that was true, don't you think the writer should have mentioned it before the last 20 minutes of the show? This just occurred to them, and we all know it.
Deep sigh.
20 minutes.
Beatrice is staring forlornly at the sea, as characters are forever doing on this show. Her brother approaches and tells her they should invite Dr. Fuchs to tea. Beatrice almost weeps from happiness and thanks him. For that moment alone, the storyline was worth it. That was so sweet.
Yes.
Over at Mrs. Filkins, Tom is explaining his plan to replace every roof that needs it and rebuild every house that isn't structurally sound in Old Town. He also tells her that Mr. Colborne insisted they build a school that anyone can attend, boys and girls. Mm-hmm. He said it was vital that every young woman be learned as well as accomplished. We get it, he's a feminist now. Sheesh with the anvils. Over at Georgie's place, she is trying on a very elaborate gold wedding gown in front of her future mother-in-law, who smiles and tells her she looks like a duchess. Into the room enters a very annoyed-looking Agnes, who asks to speak to her daughter alone. Agnes tells her she left a note, and right on top of Georgiana's desk is an unopened letter. Sis didn't even check her desk. Facepalm. Inside it, she finds all the money Lady Montrose offered her mother.
Dun, 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 dun. Cut to Georgiana confronting Lady Montrose at the tea rooms. Lady Montrose tries to play it off as some kind of misunderstanding, but Georgie isn't dumb enough to fall for that. She hands her back the money and reminds her that she has little enough to spare. God, that was a great piece of shade. Harry, horrified by his mother's actions, runs after Georgiana and tells her that their wedding would be a horrible mistake and it's better they call the whole thing off.
He says tomatoes, she says tomatoes.
So we've had two knots taken care of. Lady Denham visits the Parkers to discuss the new plans for the Old Town. She says she thought they were supposed to be running a fashionable resort, not a charity. Learning that Mr. Colborne has already offered £40, Lady Denham decides to match him. I won't be made to look a miser by him. And she flounces off in that delightful way only Anne Reed can.
Georgiana apologizes to her mother for doubting her. Agnes tells her that she totally understands, as she's been let down so many times by the people she loved, and apparently also by her maid, who tidied the letter away. Mm-hmm. Georgiana offers her fortune to her mother so she can put it to good use helping people. Agnes refuses, but tells her that she knows someone who can help her in that endeavour. Gag me, it's Otis Molyneux. Her mother has apparently been in London talking to her ex and trying to, matchmake them together again. Presumptuous thing for her to do after knowing Georgiana for less than a day. Oh my god, when I think about that I might cry. Anyway, back at Denham House, Edward tells his aunt he has arranged for the wedding presents to be returned and tells her he's willing to keep her company as long as she may require. And considering her age, it might be like a couple of days.
Yeah.
Lady Denham is horrified at this thought and laughs, telling him she has something quite different in mind.
Georgie goes to see Charlotte, who is leaving for Ireland the next day, and tells her that her mother has helped her see where her future really lies. Or truly lies. Yeah. With Otis Molyneux. They depart for London tonight. Then the girls say their goodbyes. Oh, there's so much more coming. Mr. Price arrives back at Denham House and tells Lady D he was being a cantankerous old fool. He has offered to be the sole investor for Tom's original idea of a small hotel because he'll need somewhere to stay when he comes to visit her. He proposes that he will come and visit her every 3 months or so. It's actually genius because she will retain her title, money, home, and most importantly, her independence. She sighs and says she will just have to put up. Over at Hayrick Park, a surprise Lady Susan appears. She got halfway to London before realizing she was making a mistake and goes to kiss Samuel. He asks if His Majesty will be displeased. Susan shrugs and says she couldn't care less. All kinds of bows being tied up here in the last 20 damn minutes.
Okay, it's time for Lady Denham's big reveal. She brings Edward to a church and reminds him that she had once said, once she had observed consistent evidence that he was reformed, she would offer him a living. Apparently, she's impressed with the fact that he held off fucking the teenage girl he abducted. The bar is on the floor for men.
Yeah.
Anywho, Edward then realizes that by a living, she is referring to him becoming a clergyman. He asks if she has taken leave of her senses. Arthur comes across Harry at the pavilion. Harry apologizes to him and asks if there's any hope they might regain their friendship. I'm putting friendship in quotation marks because they want to snog. Arthur tells him that you cannot regain something that was never lost, and they smile at each other. And that's it, guys. That's the whole storyline. Congrats.
Yep.
Over at London, Georgiana finds Otis giving a rather sparsely attended lecture for the Sons of Africa. She tells him she is not marrying the Duke, and implies she wants to marry him because, quote, "You gave me back my mother," end quote. Girl, give me a gift card or something. Christ on earth, you don't have to marry the man.
No. Oh my God. Back on the Sanditon beach, Samuel and Susan talk, a novel idea on this show, and realize that Heybourne have their respective wires crossed. Sam races back home to tell his brother before Charlotte leaves for Ireland. We watch as Charlotte says her goodbye to the Parkers. My personal favorite moment was Arthur giving her a pork pie for her journey. I love that too. As she heads over the cliffs towards above Sanditon, in a very similar scene to the season 1 ending, Xander pulls up on his horse and stops the carriage. Xander is like, "You didn't tell me you'd called off your wedding." And she is like, "Who cares? You are engaged to Lady Lydia." And he's like, "The fuck I am," and explains that Lady Lydia has been conducting a secret courtship in defiance of her mother. She's engaged to that nameless man. Charlotte is, relieved to learn he is free to marry as he pleases, and gives the following rather presumptuous speech that has all the echoes of an Austen quote. Quote, "You bewitched me from the very first moment we met, and ever since my affections have not wavered. Indeed, they have only grown deeper with every second that I have spent in your company. I cannot imagine how fathomless they will be once we have shared a life together." End quote. They kiss a lot. A lot.
A lot.
Which, I'm not complaining, but, damn. We then ruin our good mood by cutting to the Otis Georgiana wedding. It's very different in style to the one she planned on having with the Duke. In fact, there only appears to be one witness, her mother. I guess it pays to be frugal when marrying a gambling addict. Yeah, you thought we forgot? No, we have not forgotten, Mr. Molyneux.
Cut to the Heybourne wedding. For some unfathomable reason, it's all in slow motion. I hate slow motion. Anyway, the whole cast is there looking happy for them and throwing petals and rice in the air. There isn't much to say about that. They're, blah, 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 happy people. Then we get a shot of them arriving for their reception. We get to see the different couples together. Harry and Arthur, Georgie and Otis, Lady D and Mr. Price, Sam Sue, Edward and this new girl he's got his eye on, and most importantly, Augusta and her age-appropriate beau. Huzzah! Nature is healing. The world is safe, yes.
Yes.
Okay, title card. 1 year later. Charlotte has opened her school, and quite distractingly, it's right next to the seashore. That seems like a mistake to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, above the door it says, Sanditon Schoolhouse, reading, writing, and arithmetic, etc. by Mrs. Colborne. Charlotte lets the kids out for the day and goes to meet her husband, their miraculous new baby, and Leo and Augusta. Leo asks if Charlotte really thinks a girl can be a lawyer or a doctor or a writer. Charlotte says, I think a girl can be whatever she chooses to be, in a manner so cheesy that I squirm from the lactose intolerant among us. The camera pans as they walk into Sanditon together and the music builds and blah 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 the end.
Woohoo!
Woo! Michelle, we can do anything.
We can. We can.
Here I was thinking that there were barriers in front of us, but apparently...
But we can do anything.
Apparently, I was just misinformed. I just need to try harder, you know?
Yes. Yes. That's all we need. Bootstraps. Tighten them things up.
I wonder if people listening actually believe that and are thinking you're too cynical.
No.
We'll talk about that ending in a minute. What did you think overall?
Unfortunately, the first thing I looked at was the running time of the episode. And it was 51 minutes and some odd number of seconds. And even before I hit play, I was like, are they freaking kidding me? That they are going to try and resolve all of the things that they had to resolve in a satisfactory way that wasn't just some Pinterest board of, solutions. So yeah, I was pretty annoyed. And then I started watching, and I kept watching the clock. And that was kind of how I spent watching the show, was, okay, you guys have X number of minutes left. You still have to get this done. How are you going to do this in a way that's satisfactory? Yada, 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 yada. All the way through to the end. So yeah, I was pretty damn disappointed.
Oh.
We got everything that we wanted, but it was so slapdashed put together that I wasn't satisfied. Now, granted, there were scenes and moments that made the British period drama junkie heart flutter like a mad woman.
Yeah.
But, it just felt so
rushed.
So neat and tidy and rushed. So rushed. Rita, how about you?
I think cards on the table, I expected not to like this. I don't like most series finales. Like 9 out of 10, I hate them. Like, the way I hated on the Bulldog ending. I was like, this is trash.
Oh, yeah.
What have they done?
Yeah.
I still, I had a good time watching some of the scenes, but like you, there were 17,000 storylines. Not all of them concluded to my satisfaction, or in some cases they didn't bother concluding them. So as to the question of did I feel satisfied, I felt like they did the whole sweeping Austen romance part of the show very well, but I have some niggles and questions about storylines that will just now never get explained. Who the fuck was Lydia engaged to? This will bother me until the day I die now. When you set something up like that, it's incredibly weird. Just never to pay it off. I mean, what's going to happen to Harry and Arthur? What's going to happen to the Montrose family in general? Because, Harry still needs to get married. I mean, it's just...
And they still broke. They still broke as hell.
Exactly. So it was a real mixed bag for me. I feel like if you watched this show just for the romance, the ending was perfect and you're really happy and woo! But if you got invested in all the different side characters and the town as a whole like we did, then you leave the show with a lot of ambivalence. And I have to say, the way the actual plot worked, the characters had to be near brain dead levels of stupid to make the devices work. Which is so stupid. I was just disappointed in how dumb they made Georgiana at the last minute. I was just like, ugh.
Oh God. I mean, after everything that she has been through and the growth that her character has made, over the 3 seasons, for her to just go, oh yes, Otis, I'm here.
My mummy's decided that I love you. Okay.
Yeah, let's just forget about all of the bullshit that you pulled on me in season 1 and...
Very legitimate reasons we had for breaking up. No.
Yeah. I'm gonna trust you heart and soul with, myself, my money, and everything is gonna be awesome.
I wouldn't mind if it had been more than a day. If he had earned back her trust over a period of time, I could understand, but...
Yeah.
And also, it's the little things, though, as well. It's her not checking for notes. It's her just assuming that Lydia's engaged to Colborne. It's come on.
Yep. Assuming that her mother is just, this horrible person for disappearing, and I don't need her anyway, and, all of that kind of stuff. I admit that girl has been through it.
Yeah.
Over the course of the last season. But it was just like way too hot and cold. And not a whole lot of nuance in between. If they wanted Otis to have a redemption arc,
do it on screen.
They needed to be working on this shit in season 2.
Yes.
And, reintroduce his character and all of the things that he's doing to try and make amends for the cluster that he left in season 1, so that it's not like this, oh my gosh, it's a voice from the past. Oh, he is redeemed. I must love him because my mother said so. That just really annoyed the hell out of me.
To be honest, part of me was kind of like, this is the cynic in me coming out here, but this is the kind of plot I would expect from two people who had swindled a woman. That he would go find someone to impersonate her mother, befriend her, and get her to marry him. And I know that's not what the show's doing, but they're writing it in a way that it would make more sense.
That would support it. Yeah.
If that was the case, then this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, we can't keep thinking about this. Let's think about the other storylines, because happy thoughts.
Yeah. Charlotte and Colborne.
I wish we'd got more time with them. It felt frustrating to have yet again another obstacle for them to jump through.
Yeah.
But the small, tiny snippets we got of them together were delightful.
Oh my god.
I love that scene.
It was like
of Colborne stopping her on the cliff. Oh.
That scene just blew my mind. I absolutely loved it. Hated the whole miscommunication, misdirection crap that we wound up getting into, which was, very reminiscent of what we saw with Allison.
Oh yeah.
In season 2, series ending.
Yeah, but you know that Jane Austen loved that shit. I mean, look at Persuasion, the ending of the whole. Oh, I think he's engaged to that teenage girl. Oh no, he's not. Yeah.
Yeah. But that kiss on the cliffs, the wedding scene where they're taking their vows, they're coming out of the church.
The petals.
The whole happy family thing at the end, although I was thinking to myself, damn, she must have gotten pregnant on her wedding night. Yeah, I was trying to work
out the logistics of that baby.
That child does not look like it is just a month or two old.
No.
And that just goes to show you how amazing the chemistry these two actors had with one another. They were able to make it look. Although I will say one thing, Alexander, it's your wedding day. Find a frickin' razor and shave your face. Not gonna take you that long, but you showed up looking scruffy. Who knows? Maybe she likes that, but still.
There's no wedding photos back in the day. It's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the first thing I was like, dude, can't you even shave for your wedding day? But she didn't seem to mind it very much. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, the scene of Colborne stopping the carriage, I was instantly like, oh shit, they are brave. They are going for a Sydney callback. Oh my god. That instantly made me uncomfortable. Were. But I think they pulled it off because the aesthetics of the whole situation were 10 out of 10. You got the horseback riding.
Yes.
The disheveled waistcoat, the pushed up sleeves, the floppy hair, the story background. You just let it go.
Yeah. Just like any grumbling I may have had up to that moment was instantly filed away in a folder somewhere at the back of my head, and I was just like, I am here for this. Yes.
I feel like it's a bit of a Pavlovian response for us, where we're like, ooh, Period drama cliches. Sign us up.
They look so good together. Oh my god.
Storyline. Georgiana
and Agnes.
So, I like this relationship, but what disappointed me the most was the way all their interactions were about Otis towards the end, and her getting married to Otis, and you know who would spend your money well? Otis. It's just incredibly disappointing that after a season of Georgiana trying to find her own autonomy, that she's just gonna straight up hand it over to a man.
Here, Otis, take my money.
You know, and he's a man that has mostly existed off screen, and we're not invested in him, like, because all of his redemption work has been off screen. And now the relationship she built with this mother just looks like a vehicle for her to get back with her romantic interest. So her mother's just a plot device for a ship, rather than a legitimate character in her own right. And then it's like, why is the only other black woman on this show just a prop? Needless to say, I don't love anything about that. And the only other black man on this show, exactly,
being the convenient groomsman for, you know, one of our main protagonists. You know, it's just, if they really wanted this to work and to sit right, they needed to build that story arc instead of just dropping him in to Series 3.
Obviously, we're haters, but I think if they had built the story better, I could have, just accepted it. You know, I was willing to let her marry him. We knew it was going to happen. And I stand by what I said in our podcast in episode 3, that I'm happy she chose a path that wasn't just appeasing white society, but we're not invested in this relationship because it started off screen, it ended on screen, we were very invested in the ending, it was very upsetting for her, and the fact that it rekindled sort of in a rush, it's like all of the wrong components. And I'm really annoyed that she's fought so hard for her inheritance this season, and for all intents and purposes, she's going to give it all over to a man we don't really know that well. This annoys me. I don't want her to end up single and alone, but I don't feel like this ending is satisfying either.
I think we talked about Otis enough.
Please. Also, like, by the way, his name always reminds me of a biscuit. Like, I feel like he's some kind of digestive oat biscuit. You know, something healthy.
Digestive. Oh my god. That's hysterical. For me, he reminds me of elevators. Because Otis is the company that makes, like, the lion's share of elevators in America. So
you've been looking at the names of manufacturers of elevators? That's weird.
No, it's, you, like, just see them. You know, you get in an elevator and you see Otis, and it's like, okay. You don't really think too much about it, but, you know, then you have a character named Otis, and it's like, oh yeah, elevators. Don't ask me for how my brain works.
I'm gonna Photoshop a moustache or something on top of an elevator, and you're gonna...
That'll be awesome. Okay, Arthur and Harry. Let's talk about a couple of people that we just adore.
I mean...
J'adore.
I love them, but this was underwhelming. Like, nothing happened. They've been such a wonderful...
Completely underwhelming.
Wonderful part of the season. Quite often the highlight of the episodes. But nothing happened. I don't really know where they stand.
Yeah, it was just I'm sorry. You don't have anything to be sorry about. Grin. That's it? Really?
Harry still has to marry someone. Nothing's resolved. Guys.
Yes.
I don't have anything else to say other than that was...
Yeah. It was disappointing.
I didn't even get a kiss, Michelle.
I don't, well, you know, like they're gonna do a kiss in a period drama. Nah.
They could if they wanted to. Anyway.
Yeah.
Samuel and Susan.
Samsu.
I was, again, a bit annoyed. We got a third incarnation of torn between true love versus position in society. We saw that with Georgiana and Charlotte. We don't need a third version of it. It's just felt a bit trite. Wasted a lot of time. We didn't need it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that the two of them got together in the end, but, you know, we had another circuitous path to getting them there, which, you know, was drama that we really didn't need. But I do love the chemistry between those two actors. I thought it was just wonderful.
I love them. I loved the proposal. It was hot.
Oh my god, yes!
I also loved them talking on the beach to each other, because I was like, oh, two people that talk. Ooh.
Communication is so hot.
Yeah. But it was also, like, extra drama in the last episode.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, time is ticking. And that was the thing. I just kept looking at the clock going, seriously? We're wasting time on this? Come on. Burning daylight. Let's go. Let's go.
We know the ending.
Oh.
Like, she's going to go to the king.
Yes. Okay. Rowley Price and Lady Denham.
Enjoyed this plot.
I love her. I mean, the lines that she was hauling off throughout the episode were absolute gems. You know, when she was saying things like, you know, giving Edward a living, or, you know, Lady Denham saying, you know, I won't be made to look a miser by Mr. Colborne. Or...
I love that because she... Remember in season 1, they made such a big deal about her being a miser, and they were like, she doesn't like to spend her money.
Yes. Yes, I was like, well, she's not going to be looking bad. You know, the scene that, you know, where Rowley comes back to Sanditon House to confront Lady Denham and talks about the humiliation of being left at the altar, and Lady Denham is like, that's funny. I can relate. You know, it's like she was just firebrand. I love her.
I loved her scene with Charlotte as well when she was like, oh, you called off your wedding? Well, I suppose I can't criticise that. I enjoyed this part because we got to see Lady Denham kind of stand up for herself and say, you know what? I created this life.
Yes.
On my own terms. And, you know, Rowley was quite dismissive of her title, but when you think she used to be as poor as Clara and just, like, clawed her way up to the top, it's actually a huge achievement. And she deserves to keep her status and her title and her house and just live it up in her old age. And as much as I don't like Rowley, it was nice to have them sort of compromise so that she gets to have some company, even if it's with a pig like him, you know.
Yes.
And he is the worst.
Yeah, he is. He really is.
Speaking of terrible men.
Oh my god, Edward.
Yeah.
Did you burst out laughing when she proposed that he become a member of the clergy?
I mean, I did, but I've seen this coming.
Yeah. And have you taken leave of your senses?
I'm still like, what happened to his estate?
Yes.
He has a fucking estate. He doesn't need a living of a clergyman. He needs to marry someone, inject some cash into that estate, and start farming or something. Like, he doesn't need to be a clergyman. Like, I don't understand. Have they forgotten he has a title as well?
You know, I think they have conveniently forgotten that and are hoping that the rest of us have forgotten it as well.
This makes no sense. They really like to just conveniently forget half the things that they told us in season 1. Sorry for paying attention. I really liked the shot of him checking out that woman dressed in his robes at the end. I was like, oh, classic Edward. Only a matter of time before he destroys
Edward,
her life.
He's back again. Now he is just a lovable rake. You know, before he was, you know, like this sociopathic asshole, and now he's just a lovable rake.
I still think he might end up poisoning people.
Oh, yeah.
During communion, like, everyone. Actually, I don't know what denomination they are. They might not do communion.
I would say Church of England. Okay. Tom and Mary in Old Town. Oh.
I mean, we're going to end up complaining again. Was this the most unconvincing personality transformation you've ever seen?
It was. Season 2, we had that really super heartwarming moment where, Sydney's trunk arrives and, Tom and Arthur are going through it and, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do about the whole army camp situation and, all of that. It really had a purpose.
I actually liked Tom for a second there.
Exactly. He was just an misogynistic asshole this season, and I hated it. And it had to come to the point where, Mary is almost dying, and he is, basically saying, "As God is my witness, I will change. I will change. Just please let her live." And she opens her eyes. And it's like, wow. Really?
She made the most miraculous recovery. The woman nearly died and was up and at 'em in the afternoon, taking tea, doing social calls.
I know. It was just ridiculous. But, I'm glad that they wound up coming around to, the thoughts and plans that she had for the Old Town and in the and the enrichment of Sanditon, as opposed to, enriching it in the cashy money sense with the giant grand hotel thing that they were planning on building, which they still should have built on the damn hill, but, I'm willing to let that go. Don't
you think they should have shown us the new renovations? Like, why are we why are we skipping forward a year and you're not showing us?
Well, because, they only had 52 minutes and they wasted a whole bunch of time with all of those shenanigans that they had happening. So we didn't get the opportunity to see kind of how things develop and grow to the point where they have the new school. They have a nice little hotel that's doing well.
They have allotments, which are just adorable. Yeah. Everyone gets to plant food. I was like, this is the best idea people have had.
Yeah. But no, we had to waste our time with all of this misdirection and ridiculousness. But let's not dwell on that.
No, let's dwell on themes.
Yes.
First one, I have to say, faith.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? It just came out of nowhere, this episode. God was out here curing Mary, stopping Charlotte from marrying Ralph, making everyone just miraculously happy. It just seemed like everyone was feeling a little spiritual, which is weird. This show's never entertained that before, so it's kind of ridiculous to pull the God card in the last episode. I think it would have been interesting to see it weaved out a little more in the season. One of our characters is a reverend.
Yes.
It felt like it was just a plot device. Is it weird to be like, God is a plot device? But
yeah, you're absolutely right. And, it didn't have to be that way. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people that will be thinking that we're, like Monday morning quarterbacking,
That is our whole podcast, Michelle.
I know. But, I think one of the things that I know you and I reflect on in these podcasts is, the art of storytelling and how you go about telling a story in such a way that it provides a multi-dimensional, rich plot where the characters are much more than just names on an IMDb card or website, and, I think that, when we have these shows, and because we've seen British period dramas where they do this, where you wind up with these characters that are like flesh and bone and become truly invested in who they are. And the storytelling is so rich, for example, what we saw in The Empress, for example. Those are characters that, had flaws, they had intrigue, the whole 9 yards. And, I hate to feel like, we're just playing with cardboard cutouts, but, when you have a season finale where they don't take advantage of the characters that they have created and gotten us invested in, and they just tie everything up in a nice pretty bow and, okay, let's move on.
You make a great point, because I feel like they thought, it's the season finale, we don't have to work on characterization anymore.
Right.
But it's in the last episode that you feel you need to grow the characters to the point of their conclusion. And it was like all of the work they'd done throughout the season just evaporated, and they forgot who these people were, and they just became, like you said, like little cardboard cutouts. They were positioning together, this person's going to be with this person, this person's going to be with this person, and they forgot to make you root for them. It was just very formulaic and pat, which was...
Yes, those are the perfect words, formulaic and pat.
Female autonomy was obviously, well, the epilogue really hit us over the head with that one, but I think it was an important part of the whole season. Every female character's journey.
The whole series, if you, if you go to the 30,000 foot level and look at the entire series, it really was a theme woven through the entire 3-season series. I think that we got much more concrete around the concept of female autonomy. It wasn't something that was as subtle as we may have seen in previous series. But by the time we come to the end of this one, we have all of these women basically standing up and being and self-determining their fate.
Even Lydia, even though we don't know what her fate is, and we will never know who she's marrying. Everyone go vote on my poll. I personally think she has formed an engagement with Xander's horse, Hannibal, because that's the only person we saw her truly love this season.
I love you, Hannibal.
Favourite scenes? For me, it was definitely the Heybourne kiss on the cliff.
Oh, God, yes. I mean, that
Aesthetics.
That was, like, almost worth the price of admission. It was, it was about as perfect an Austen moment as you could possibly get. And they were not screwing around with that kiss. No. That was some serious lip action.
I loved how, like, stormy the background was as well. It made it just look very, almost like a painting, like... Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, it was very artistic. It was very lovely. I loved every single moment of that lovey-dovey scene up there.
Was that your favourite?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know what a sucker I am for, a man dressed in Regency garb striding across a lawn or grass or moor, or fill in the blank of what they're striding across. In the way that you described it, with the disheveled waistcoat and the sleeves pushed up and the floppy hair and the whole 9 yards. I will even accept the scruffy chin. In that moment.
I would still like to put a formal complaint in if I could about that choice, but
Well, he needed to take a razor to his face before the wedding. Please. I mean, come on.
I get that he was, like, depressed this season, but, like, he was happy at the end, so shave.
Yeah, I agree with you. But, damn, Xander, whip out some shaving cream and a straight razor and shave up them cheeks. But, that was my favorite scene. And I will admit, even the slow motion wedding, I know you hate slow motion, but it was beautiful.
See, that's my least fave. Well, no, actually, no, that's not
really.
No, I don't like slow motion. So the last 3 minutes of the show was just like a living nightmare for me. And I kept thinking, if this shot was regular speed, we would have maybe had like 5 more minutes of the show, and I could find out who Lydia had married. It was just a torturously long passage of time. I get it for the petals, but why were we doing it for people walking into a room?
Yeah. I will agree with that. We could have just had the slow motion for the petal action because that looked lovely.
That was beautiful.
But I just... Ugh.
My actual least favourite scene...
Yes.
...is the epilogue.
Oh, God! Yes!
It managed to be the worst thing I've seen since the Harry Potter epilogue.
Oh my God, I was just going to say that.
It felt like it was written for a child. It was so patronisingly trite. I think I can do anything.
Yes. I was just going to use that same comparison.
I get it. It's very, like, celebratory and fun and very sincere. And if you're not an old cynic like me, I'm sure you loved it. I'm too jaded for this shit. I actually preferred the season 1 ending where everybody was crying. That was better to me than, like, this bullshit where I was like, I feel like they think I'm stupid.
Yeah.
Girls can do anything, but don't try for another 150 years because the patriarchy.
Oh, God. Rita, you're awesome. You're awesome. I would have to agree. That. You know what the word is? Schlocky. It was schlocky. So, performer of the episode. Oh, favorite costume. I'll admit that the gold wedding dress that Georgiana was trying on, that was gorgeous.
I saw a post on Instagram that said it was based on a real dress owned.
Oh, really?
By the king's daughter who ended up dying, Princess Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it was beautiful.
I really loved Lydia's orange coat. I think that was a fun pop of colour.
Yeah, I think that the wedding dress that, oh my God, Charlotte was wearing, I thought that was very pretty. I wouldn't say it was my favorite. I wouldn't say it was even though it was white. I wouldn't say it was my favorite. My favorite would have been the gold wedding dress.
I fucking hate white dresses for weddings. Stop doing it.
I know you do.
I'm so tired of doing every fucking show. Every show I have to be like, this isn't
accurate.
It's not accurate, but it's also not interesting. You have an opportunity to do a coloured wedding dress. Go for it. Don't be boring.
Yeah.
Performer of the episode.
I am gonna give it to Rose. I thought she did a great job with what she was given to work with.
Agreed. I feel like she was finally given room to be Charlotte.
Yes.
A lot of the previous episodes, she's just been running around sorting out other people's problems and hiding from Ralph. And she felt more like in character than she's been for the whole season, basically.
For quite some time. Yeah.
She almost made the "I think a woman can do anything" line bearable, because I was like, she's so charming. Why am I a hater? How many Antigua black pineapples out of 5?
I give it 3.5.
Same. I think I started at a 4, and then the more we've talked, the more I'm like, I need to knock it down, because I'm just complaining the whole time. Yeah, they had some real issues with pacing, which worked to the detriment of like how things could have ended.
but in the end, the storylines that I was really caring about were resolved. I even was happy about the Beatrice and Dr. Fuchs, Harry and Arthur to a lesser extent.
I think the Lydia fan in me is just so bitter, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She was such a fun character. It would have been nice to have seen her.
Not her being a secret Anne Elliot the whole time. It was like, there she is.
Yeah.
Being fabulous.
Yeah.
Do you get to find out what happened to her? No.
Anyhow. But yeah, all in all, Sanditon is one for the history books.
I will be rewatching and bracing myself for what is to come regarding Lydia. And hopefully, second time through, I can be less bitter about it. But,
Yes.
That's all from us today. Keep your eyes out for our final ever podcast on Sanditon. Feels kind of unreal to be saying that, but if you want to follow our other endeavours in the podcasting sphere, then follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We're at In the Books Network for updates on all the period dramas we're going to watch, and the list is getting ever longer.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Next up, Queen Charlotte, so y'all get all buckled in, and let's have some fun. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.